Through these episodes, we can see lots of implications of different scriptures. We can take how the Jedi, who some might say are the Christians in this reality, they put their faith not in themselves but in the Force. We can take their examples by putting our faith not in ourselves but in Christ. Just as they are selfless and look to serve others, we can take their example to be selfless and to serve others, to love God and to love our neighbor. You know, the commandments that fulfill the whole law. These are things that we can learn from in Star Wars Visions. What's going on, fam? Welcome to the Adonime podcast, where we watch anime with the redemptive eyes of a Christian believer. My name is Manny, and today we're going to be doing a flag review for the show Star Wars Visions. Now, so just as a quick reminder, for flag videos, we're going to be rating the anime with 3 flags. Either a red flag, which is the anime has very little to no Christian values that we can learn from. A yellow flag, which means a Christian should watch with discretion. And a green flag, which means it has lots of great Christian values that we can learn from. So Star Wars Visions is a compilation of different takes, creative takes on Star Wars with different animated short films, basically celebrating Star Wars through the lens of the best anime creators. So before we get into this, it's important to point out that Star Wars Visions is PG-13. And I definitely agree with PG-13. I have a 7-year-old who I try to watch some of it with, and really some of the episodes are a little gruesome. They have killing and dying, people dying and stuff, and a lot of violence. So I wouldn't recommend it for people younger than 13 unless with a parent. But it can be a little gruesome. I know it's Star Wars, but Star Wars is, a lot of war, so be prepared for that. So let's get into it. Star Wars Visions is very special for many reasons. And I got into Star Wars about 7 to 8 years ago, but before that I wasn't interested in watching it at all, honestly, until a pastor of mine told me he was a big fan of Star Wars for a long time because you can see lots of biblical themes and lessons in it. And once he told me that, I said, I got to watch it for myself. And boom, the rest is history. I don't think Star Wars is for everybody, but I think as a believer, it's a pretty good option to watch. The stories are always about good versus evil and how good always wins in the end. But Star Wars is interesting because it has such a way of showing how complicated that may be to see the fine line between good and evil. How, there is deception. There are people who, are hypocrites, or people who pretend to be good, or matter of fact, even people who pretend to be bad. And it's really interesting. It's really interesting. And they have lots of different points of views with lots of different shows and that Star Wars has come out with and whatnot. But these are things that happen in real life. Life happens, people change, and it can be difficult to know the right path sometimes. But when we trust in God, we can have faith that He will lead us down the right path. And I believe we can take that example with the Force, which is from Star Wars, which in some ways we can relate to God, not in every sense, but in this sense, yes. So, because of all of this, also being an anime fan, I was very excited about Star Wars Visions. And I have to say, it did not disappoint. At least with this first season of Star Wars Visions, because by the time this episode comes out, is the second season of Star Wars Visions is releasing. But for the sake of spoilers, I won't go into too much detail because, like I said, each episode is its own short story. And I feel like talking about the specific details of the episodes will just basically spoil the whole episode. But each one has its own lessons, and they can spring up in great, deep conversations. Conversations about friendship, conversations about redemption, about love, sacrifice, and mercy. And all of these things are essential lessons for us believers. And we can find these here. Not to mention the distinct animations for each episode are incredible, a sight to behold. And I love how anime does such a great job of portraying stories, of telling stories. For me, it just adds an extra something that makes it captivating and engaging. And I know that some of these episodes, like I was saying, they can be gruesome. And again, we have to remember that Star Wars, there's killing, there's shooting, and that's stuff that we need to be careful with. And not everyone can or should watch stuff like that, and that's fine. But Visions does have a few episodes that are a little lighter to watch, but through these episodes we can see lots of implications of different scriptures. We can take how the Jedi, who some might say are the Christians in this reality, they put their faith not in themselves but in the Force. We can take their examples by putting our faith not in ourselves but in Christ. Just as they are selfless and look to serve others, we can take their example to be selfless and to serve others, to love God and to love our neighbor. The commandments that fulfill the whole law. These are things that we can learn from in Star Wars Visions. And because of that, I have to give Star Wars Visions a green flag. And today, as this episode releases, the new season of Star Wars Vision is releasing. And I wanted to do this special episode just for Star Wars Day, to celebrate Star Wars Day. And I'm honestly so excited to watch it. And if you're not a Star Wars fan, but you're an anime fan, I hope you will give it a chance, because there's so much goodness to extract from the show, at least so far. So I have a lot of hopes for season 2, and we'll have to see how it comes out. And we'll definitely plan to do an episode to review the first season and maybe an updated flag review for season 2, so that we can talk a little bit more about the details. And I would really love to go through each episode and talk about the lessons. So look forward to that in the near future, as I'm sure this new season is going to be a big hit. And that's it. That's all I have for you guys in this episode. I hope you guys enjoyed it. And until next time, grace and peace. Thank you guys so much for joining us on this episode of the Adonime podcast. Don't forget to subscribe and leave us a rating. You can also follow us on Instagram and Twitter at Adonime Podcast. Until next time, grace and peace.